Welcome to Talking Europe, coming to you from the European Parliament in Brussels. We've had mad cow disease, bogus beef, fake alcohol, and perhaps in the future mutant fish. Has the European food industry gone mad? We'll be debating that with two MEPs, José Bové from the group of the Greens and Róża Thun from the European People's Party. In the second part, we'll be discussing the food crisis with the Prime Minister of Romania, Victor Ponta. Romania, of course, was closely involved in the crisis from the very outset. I'll also be asking Victor Ponta about the difficult transition in his country since Romania became a member of the European Union and the problems with being accepted by the rest of the European family. But first, we start here on the set, talking about Europe's food industry and the crisis it now finds itself in. Horse meat being mislabeled as beef, found in food products in more than a dozen European countries. And if that's not enough to knock the confidence of European consumers, the European Commission has announced that it will be possible from this summer for European fish farmers to use processed animal proteins to their fish. In other words, effectively, this means that fish will be eating animals. We're going to be debating these issues with our guests, Rosa Gräfin von Thun und Hohenstein, who is an MEP for the European People's Party. Welcome to the program.
Bonjour.
Also joining me, José Bové from the group of the Greens at the European Parliament. Hello to you.
Hello.
José Bové, if I can start with you, what do you make of this latest announcement about animal proteins being fed to fish in the future?
Well, I think this is completely crazy. We have 16 years ago a big mess with ESB. A lot of animals have been killed, have been put out. The consumers didn't know anymore how to do with that. And now the European Union, just at the same moment when we have this crisis with the horse meat instead of beef, now they decide to put this on the table. So for me, it's very clear. We have to ban this. We have to refuse completely the use of dead animals to feed other animals or fish. And clearly, already, the French government says we're refusing to use this kind of techniques in France.
Róża Thun, ban the feeding of animals to other kinds of animals?
To me, I mean, there are animals who eat animals, and this is a completely natural process. What is most important is that we know how those fish are bred and fed. To me, the most important is the consumer. The consumer must be conscious of what he or she becomes on the table. And if this is a kind of fish that naturally doesn't eat meat, maybe one should feed it in a natural way. That means plants or grains. But if it's a fish that does eat meat, maybe it's a natural way. I wouldn't do any general solution for all kinds of animals. But I think the most important is that we know how the food that we have on the table was processed, that the information functions for the consumer.
Well, you know, first thing I would like to say is that I never saw pigs or chicken under the sea eaten by fish. This never happened. So this is not in the chain food. Big fish eat small fish. This is completely in evidence. So I think this is the first thing. The second thing why I think we have to ban this very clearly is that what happened 60 years ago with ESB is that we see that we are not sure at all about this chain food. This chain food is so long, so huge, and what happened, I said already, with the horse meat, shows that we have no clear information. So how the consumer is going to really to know what is happening. And another argument, and which is maybe an argument for some people of our communities, is for some religions, the Jewish and the Muslim. Are they going to be able to choose to eat fish which have been eating pigs? This is completely incredible. So at least in the countries who are not going to ban it, but we need to have all the information, we need to have a clear labeling saying this fish has never eat any meat.
And this gives a choice to the consumer. The consumer should have a choice between fish fed in a natural way, unnatural way, animal products, not animal products, and have a conscious and honest choice. Of course, there's traceability from where the food comes, how it was produced, what was added to it, how it was fed. This is very crucial. And here we have various systems in the European Union, but we have now on the table against an example that it doesn't really work. And to me, this is a challenge. Not to find a general solution, it must work in that way everywhere, but find a solution of honest, real, trust, information that we can trust.
But how can you enforce labeling for fish so that every consumer knows that this fish was fed with meat or not?
This is a solution that the traders, producers, European Commission must find. There are systems that inform about the productions, but we see that they do not work until now. So this is a huge challenge as well for the European Parliament as for the European Commission to develop systems that will enable all consumers, but also traders, because traders suffer from it when they lose the confidence of the consumers. And our market will not function if we do not trust each other. Trust is the crucial issue.
Well, what is quite, I don't understand why the Commission decided to say, okay, now we can feed again fishes with animals. Well, they decided this for the 1st of June. They didn't say anything about labeling, about the consumers. How are they going to be informed? Nothing. So this is going to begin clearly with no capacity for the consumers to know clearly what they are going to eat.
I don't know if there is a research. As far as I know, there is no research that shows that this is something extremely unhealthy to the fish, to the humans who eat this fish.
The problem for me
is the information. That if you don't wish to eat this fish fed by animals,
it's not the problem only to eat, because when you wanted to eat beef, you had a horse.
Yeah, that's information again. It's not that the horse is unhealthy.
No, but the problem shows,
you don't know about
that shows that you're not able in the chain food how it is to be clear. And if you begin to put animal in the feed, that means clearly that maybe in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, what is going to happen in the slaughterhouse? Maybe some cows are going to be put in, maybe other animals. You're not going to be able to control.
So you are for bans and I am for information.
No, and I think what happened 16 years ago...
I'm for an open market and honest
if you remember what happened with the ESB crisis, why did we decide at the European level to ban? Because we had this sanitary
That's a good point.
crisis.
With the BSE, there was an actual health issue that was demonstrated, wasn't there?
And there was also no information about it. But the issue is transparency, transparent information, develop information and give the consumer and the trader a choice, a real choice, and that's how we build trust.
For the consumers now. No choice in the decision of the Commission. There's no choice.
No, the consumer can choose what kind of production he or she chooses, but he or she must know.
In the decision of the Commission to put back this meat, there's no decision telling to the countries you have to labelize, you have to the companies to do it, and so on.
We come to a philosophic discussion.
No, it's not a discussion, it's a concrete one.
Do we want to prohibit more, ban more, or do we want to control, inform, introduce more and more transparency? The second solution is more difficult, but I think it works better, and that's what Europeans
Transparency, yes, ban also.
Let's take a look back at this horse meat scandal specifically, and then we'll continue the discussion. This report from our correspondent in Romania, Mirel Bran.
This is where they thought it began, in Transylvania, a picturesque region in the heart of Romania. In the village of Husea, the local economy depends on this abattoir. Carmolymp is a successful business which has over 1,000 employees across Romania. It runs everything from farms to a chain of 110 shops. In a country where the average monthly salary is €350, it has a turnover of 30 million. Last year it exported 60 tonnes of horse meat to France. The company's keen to make clear that none of it was labelled as beef.
Last year we only exported horse meat. We've sold it because horse meat is what was ordered. It was a large amount, 60 tonnes in total.
aproximativ 60 de tone în total.
While Romanians don't eat horse meat themselves, the society retains a culture of horsemanship. When they're too old to work, the animals are sold at informal markets in the provinces. It's here that the abattoirs get their supplies. In 2012, Romania exported 6,000 tonnes of horse meat to EU countries.
We sell the animals here. It's a market that we organize every Sunday. People come to exchange products and sell animals for food.
Romanian abattoirs have been cleared, but the fact they were originally accused of being the source of the problem has left a bitter taste. Many Romanians are angry and some are calling for compensation from the European Commission.
Róża Thun, you were talking just a while ago about transparency. We saw in that report that Romania denied any responsibility, and it seems that there is really no conclusions for the European consumer from this scandal.
Well, it is not said that the Romanians sold horse meat as beef. So why should they claim, or why should they be penalized for their honest selling what they sold? The chain is so long, and the problem is that the chain from the producer to the consumer is so long and complicated that finally the consumer doesn't know what he or she has on the plate. And this is the big issue. And then we claim the country of origin of this meat, that we get something we didn't know of, but it's not necessarily the producer. I wouldn't even control the country as such, but the slaughterhouse or the producer, particular producer, without nationalizing him or her. And the question is, if we trace down from the plate to the origin, to the producer, if what we have on the plate is what we expect it to be.
So I want to say, firstly, because I heard a lot of bad things in the newspaper or radio and TV against Romania. And I think this was really a scandal. Romania has no responsibility at all. The slaughterhouse of Romania have no responsibility. And they were, of course, they sold horse meat, and they sold horse meat to traders. The traders change it, the companies in France or other ones change it, and that's how the mess began. So I think the first problem is with the traders. These traders are real gangsters. Gangsters
not all
from...
Of them, not all
yes,
of them.
We have to be clear. The guys who are in this problem are real gangsters.
Those who
because
sold
the guy,
horse as veal.
Yeah,
as beef.
The guy from Holland, Cyprus, and so on. We don't know where it finished.
This is the subsidiaries you're talking about, isn't it?
Sorry?
The subsidiaries I think you're...
These are the traders, because
okay.
The company in France phoned to Cyprus, Cyprus phoned to Holland, and Holland to Romania. So it was completely crazy. So that's the long chain which has to stop. After that, we have the problem with the companies who transform and to say they change the etiquette, I don't know.
The
label, saying this is now beef and not more horse. They are the criminals in this stuff. Even if it's not a sanitary problem, for the consumers, it's completely unacceptable. Now, 16 countries are concerned by this, and the European Union was not able to find out. That's why I believe that the main way to change this, of course, we can labelize, but it's also to shorten the chain food.
And I think that there is another problem. It's very easy to call guilty a producer in Romania, let's say. Romania is not yet in Schengen. It's a new member state in the European Union. And it's extremely important that we really see where the guilt is. And there are countries or people, I am Polish, countries or people who are easier to call guilty. Let's check it. Those countries very often have many more controls within their own system because they care very much about their reputations, that those huge producers that those new member states usually are not proprietors of those chains of shops and producers, and the guilt is put on the producers in Romania, I also heard Poland, which are completely clean and control themselves very strictly. The norms are extremely high and strict. So let's be honest here. Where the dishonesty was committed, where the sin was committed.
Is the solution then spot checks on the traders in every country along the food chain by the national health authorities of each country?
I think we have to be clear. Each authorities have to know clearly which are these traders. Because when we take the example of this trader in Holland, his office is not in Holland. He's coming from Malta. So we don't know at the end who has the responsibility in the company. I think this is very important, completely to know what is happening. But what I want to say after that is all this problem is coming by the want of the companies to have lower and lower price, to have more benefits. And this, I think, is a problem. Because
maybe the problem also comes from the fact
Sorry.
Sorry. Maybe the problem also comes from the fact that we do not really have the internal market yet functioning as one common single market with one system of controls, where the borders do not cut this market into many pieces. And as you say, he comes from Cyprus, works in Holland, etc. We label here nationally. We should have a European label, European one system of control, shorter ways of delivery. If the single market works really as one market, it's much easier to control that the meat is sold beef as beef and horse as horse, and the consumer knows what he or she gets on the plate.
Okay, we'll have to stop there because I don't think you're going to agree on the completion of the single market in this particular area. But I'd like to thank my guests, José Bové and Róža Thun, both MEPs. And don't go away because in part 2, we'll bring you continuing discussion of this food crisis with the Prime Minister of Romania, Victor Ponta.